Hello friends and welcome to the daily current affairs discussion. So as you all know, every Thursday we discuss the current affairs related to your international relations or history or ancient, medieval or whatever is in news with regard to your GS1 and GS2 perspective, right? So today these are the topics of discussion that we will be taking up. Good afternoon to everyone who is joining us today, and somebody is asking that ये class regular होती है. Yes, Vaibhav, we have on a weekly basis every every topic from every subject is tried to be covered in these current affairs sessions. On Thursdays I take up the class every Thursday for the IR and history related portion. So the topics of discussion for today are going to be these: foreign military financing, an issue in news. So we'll discuss it briefly. Important for your preliminary examination or any other state or other government examinations, this term can be asked, so there it is important. Then Indo-Pacific Economic Forum framework, it is not forum, it is framework, so that we will discuss. Then the price cap coalition, G7 and SCO, all are important topics. So let's just dive into it to cover maximum that is possible. So the first topic that we will discuss is the foreign military financing, right? This is an initiative that has been introduced by USA, an initiative, an aid program that has been introduced by USA basically for the East European countries, that comprises Ukraine plus its other 18 neighbors, right? So basically the idea behind this financing is that, as currently in news you might be witnessing the issue of violence by Russia upon Ukraine. The Russian-Ukraine war has been launched. So in that context, USA has introduced this idea of foreign military financing so that these countries can take money from USA to increase their security setup, to improve their security setup, so that they can fight any aggression if they witness from the Russian side, right? So this is a mechanism, aid program introduced by USA for the East European nations, mainly Ukraine and all other nations. आपको सारे नाम याद करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. You need not remember all these names. Just you should know what are the East European nations. When we talk about East European nations, these are the nations, right? And they will be getting financing under this program or aid initiative launched by USA, right? So this is just important. कहीं भी objective type questions में this question foreign military finance can be asked. So इतना ही is important from this, right? Now let's discuss another important topic, the next important topic for us, that is this Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, Indo-Pacific framework. Right, as the name suggests. Okay, somebody is asking a doubt, I'll address that. What is the difference between the Hindu current affairs and these current affairs? There is no difference. We are trying to discuss the important current affairs from the newspaper itself. कुछ ऐसे topics होते हैं that are important for examination perspective and that might be difficult for you to understand on your own. So we try to address those current affairs here so that you have better understanding of whatever is coming in the newspaper. So we help you to prepare better, to understand better, so that you can apply these concepts when you write answers. ठीक है, समझ आएगा तो ही लिख पाएंगे, right? So that is why. Now let's discuss IPEF, Indo-Pacific Economic Forum. As the name suggests, if I ask you who will be the members of Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, which countries do you think will become the parties of Indo-Pacific Economic Forum? Right, you see it is written in the name itself, Indo-Pacific. This entire area, you know, the countries lying in and around the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, they will become party to this agreement, that is IPEF, Indian Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. Right. Now the motive is also written in the name itself, that is economic. The main idea is to boost economic ties, economic relations or economic provisions between the members of the country. Right. So this Indo-Pacific Economic Forum has again been launched by USA to improve with the aim to strengthen the economic partnership among these Indo-Pacific countries. Right, all the countries that you can see in the Indo-Pacific area, starting from India, the ASEAN nations like Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, all the ASEAN nations, then other countries like Indonesia, Philippines and USA itself. So all these countries that lie in the Indo-Pacific area, they'll be cooperating to strengthen their economic partnership. So majorly India and 13 other countries are the parties to this agreement, right? So they are trying to bolster the economic ties or the economic benefits that they can have from this cooperation. So now why is this important? Why has IPEF been launched? See, Indo-Pacific, as I have also discussed in previous videos of mine, if you have been following this series regularly, I discussed Indo-Pacific in detail, very important for you. So Indo-Pacific is very important because majority of world's trade passes through this region, majority of world's oil passes through this region, majority of world's population resides in this region, right? So this region becomes very important for any country because it houses lot of minerals, it houses lot of rare earth elements as we call it. It also houses lot of minerals, it also houses polymetallic nodules, right? इन्हीं चीज़ों से we get materials like nickel, cobalt, manganese, all this that are that are fueling our electronic industry and other industries, right? So these minerals and materials are very important. So this area of Indo-Pacific is very important for the entire world, right? Now traditionally you see China, it has introduced its BRI or the Belt and Road Initiative. It is trying to provide finance and create infrastructure for connecting, for the welfare of the countries in the Indo-Pacific area, right? So now alternatives to Chinese financing are being developed, right? ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि ये सारी countries चाइना पे dependent हैं for all their financing needs, infrastructure needs. That is why Indian, that is being said that is why IPEF has been launched as an alternative. Although this is not an official statement, okay, this is not an official statement, but analysts say that the vision behind IPEF is that, right? Now, so IPEF is a grouping framework created, not a grouping, a framework created to facilitate economic interaction, strengthen economic ties between the countries of the framework, right? So now it will help in enhancing the growth of the nation economically. The participating countries, they can grow when they interact more. It will help boost trade in the participating countries. It will help in increasing their resilience, right? So that is why this grouping is very important. Now this grouping has been launched, India is a member of it. So ये question आ सकता है and you can use also this IPEF in your answers, right? So there are 4 pillars, right? The Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, it has 4 pillars on which it is focusing to work. it is focusing to work on these 4 pillars. Let's start with the easiest ones. They want to create a clean and green environment. आज के date में you see the world is facing the problem of climate change, the world is facing the problem of greenhouse effect, greenhouse gases, pollution and all the green environment related issues, right? So this group, this forum will try to ensure that whatever economic activities that they take, firstly they are on the greener side. Also they will focus on creating green and clean energy alternatives, right? They'll cooperate on such initiatives जैसे geothermal energy को generate कर सकते हैं, right? For that the technology required, the financing required, that will be shared, right? So this will be the first focus area of this forum, this grouping. The second is to ensure that any corruption that takes place in the regional trade while the trade is moving, if there is any tax evasion by the companies or the ships involved, if there is any corrupt activity that is being undertaken while the economic or trade activities happening via Indo-Pacific, they'll work on controlling those illegal economic aspects also. So second focus, second pillar of Indo-Pacific Economic Forum is to check the issues relating to taxation or corruption, right? So that is why this is the second major pillar. The third is to ensure fair and resilient trade, right? ये नहीं होना चाहिए that one country has dominance in all the trade or the supply chain movement of the region. Everyone there should be a balance in the trade that is moving. So fair and resilient trade is the another pillar. Finally, supply chain resilience. Supply chain resilience has to be ensured. अब supply chain क्या होती है? Starting from the producer to every step that is coming till the delivery of product to the consumer, that is what is known as the supply chain for that product, right? For example, let's say you need a TV. TV is being produced at one place, the parts are getting assembled at different places, then it is coming via different wholesalers or providers. There is a chain of people and places and institutions that are involved. So this entire process of journey of the product from the producer to the consumer, all the processes that are involved in between, they form the supply chain of that product, right? Now what is happening is majority of the production of majority of the goods, especially electronic or textile, that happens in China, right? So now when things are being produced in China, so every country is very much dependent on China for the supply of its products, right? Now COVID के time पे क्या हुआ? Because China was under lockdown, the supply chains that were dependent on China, that were starting from China, they got disrupted. They got disrupted. The rest of the world also, जब China में lockdown लगा था, rest of the world could also not get the required materials and products that it was requiring for its growth or industrial development or for running its economy, right? At that time the world realized the need of having supply chain resilience. That is, we cannot just depend on one country for our supply chain. We need to have diversify the sources from where we get our raw material or products, right? So that is the idea of supply chain resilience. So this forum will focus on creating alternatives to China dependent supply chain. ये नहीं होना चाहिए that you are dependent on China extremely for all the products that you are getting. You will try to locate those industries to alternative places like Vietnam, like Philippines. You may try to set up the supply chains from those countries, right? So this is again an important focus of the forum, right? This is forum only, framework भी कह सकते हैं, but this is forum only, right? So I'll address some of the doubts. Chahabar port importance for India. See, it's not in this topic, I'll cover it in some other session. So, how much economic contribution is given by India in this agreement? So, we are not providing any money for this grouping, right? This is an understanding, you can say. Countries will sit together, they will talk on various issues related to economic aspects, especially to these issues, and they'll try to share, you know, money if they can, technology, skills, so that they can make these pillars a success, right? That is what it is. India is not contributing any kind of money to it, right? So, this is how IPEF is very important for you, can be asked in questions. So, ये 4 pillars और इसकी basic guideline, इसका basic aim, that is to strengthen economic partnership. Just remember that part, right? Now, this next important article that said, what is G7 planning on Russian oil? You might have read it in the newspaper, it was there. So, I will just explain one important concept that this article introduced, that is price cap coalition. Price cap coalition, right? Now, you see what is happening in the world. The major event is Russia on one side, and there is a small Ukraine. Russia is attacking on this Ukraine. So, Russia-Ukraine war is going on, right? Now, entire world is disturbed because of the war that is going on. The world is not happy with the bloodshed, with the violence that is being happening in this war over the previous months, right? So, now Western world led by USA and the other G7 countries, they are trying to find out ways in which they can control Russia, and bring an end to this war, right? रशिया ने यूक्रेन पे वॉर कर रखी है, अब उसको वॉर को ख़त्म कैसे किया जाए, उसके लिए द इनिशिएटिव्स आर बीइंग टेकन, राइट? नाउ सी, you want to end the war, that means you will have to weaken Russia, right? You have to weaken Russia so that it itself ends war. वैसे तो वो end नहीं कर रहा, it wants Ukraine to agree to its conditions, the world to agree to its conditions. So the countries are trying to weaken Russia so that the war could be brought to end. Now, to weaken Russia, what can they do? Weaken Russia economically, hurt Russia economically, right? जब रशिया के पास पैसा ही नहीं होगा, then how will Russia be able to sustain the military expenditure that is happening on the war? लड़ाई लड़ने के लिए रशिया को पैसा चाहिए, जब पैसा ही नहीं होगा, how will Russia fight the war? अपने आप ही war end पे आ जाएगी, right? So that is why the countries, the Western, USA, G7 countries, they are trying to, economically weaken Russia, and for that they have introduced this price cap mechanism. What is price cap? That Russia is very much dependent on selling its commodities like oil and natural gas to the rest of the world to earn its revenue. रशिया की कमाई का बहुत मेजर सोर्स है सेलिंग ऑयल, राइट? सो नाउ what these countries are saying that we will fix a price, let's just say $30 per unit. We will fix this price at which Russia will be able to sell its oil. Any other country will not buy oil from Russia above this price. No other country will buy oil from Russia above this point, right? So the aim here is to reduce the revenue that Russia is getting from the oil that it sells, and when it will not get enough revenue, it will be economically hurt, it will not be able to sustain its military expenditure. Ultimately it may have to declare an end to the war that is happening, right? So this price cap coalition is nothing but the countries who want to be part of this price cap mechanism, right? So to impact economic position of Russia, price cap is proposed to be imposed on oil sold by Russia. That is written in this article. And India, it is asking that what will be the stand of India. So India is very much dependent on Russia for, India has strong ties with Russia. India is dependent on Russia for defense, for oil, for other needs. India wants to benefit from the ties that it has with Russia. So obviously it will not think of joining the price cap coalition, right? That is the basic idea behind it. Why India stayed out of the trade pillar? Yes, good question. So this is about all this issue. पिछले ही टॉपिक में there has been news कि इस pillar में से this pillar India has stayed out of this pillar. बाकी areas में India said that we will cooperate with you, green energy mechanisms create करना, to check tax and corruption matters, to have resilient supply chains, we will cooperate. But we will not cooperate on the, for time being, we have not been part of this pillar. Why? Because there is no clarity on the components of this pillar. There is no clarity that what constitutes, what are the components of this pillar. आपने कह दिया that you will want to create resilient trade, but what does that mean? Do you want us to impose data localization norms? Do you want us to relax taxes? Right? There is no clarity, India is saying as of now, for us in this pillar. So for now we are not joining it. Whenever there will be more clarity on the provisions, we will surely enter into this pillar of the agreement. That is what is happening for now. जल्द ही इस पे और न्यूज़ भी आ सकती है, so try to keep this in mind, right? So this is the price cap coalition. G7 is also important as it has appeared in this news item, so you can cover G7 also. So what is G7? It is majorly the grouping of these strong bigger economies of the world in general, right? Starting with USA. We have countries like Japan, UK, France, Germany in it, and when Russia also enters to G7, that time it becomes G8, right? So G7 is basically a informal block of industrialized democracies, you can say. All of these countries have seen industrialization, right? That is the process of transferring or transitioning from agricultural sector to industry being your dominant strength. Okay? So industrialized, and they are all democracies also. So G7 is a grouping of these industrialized big democracies of the world, right? And they meet on various global issues. Now you see these countries are a set of countries who that have major weight in the global decision making, right? So ये जो भी decision लेंगे, that is going to have some impact on the all over world, right? So they meet and discuss issues of economic importance, world economic governance पे भी they talk about, right? They talk about energy policy of the globe, what can be done to have more sustainable, greener ways of energy production that are being discussed in this grouping, and world security, international security, how can that be ensured? There also they keep discussing. Right? For example, Russia-Ukraine war चल रही है. Now they will, under this pillar, they will want to bring an end to the war, right? Because their objective is to ensure international security, security of all the countries in the world. So some of the decisions that they take will be in this respect. That is why they have introduced this price cap coalition to meet the objective of international security. Right? So that is what is important for you in G7. Just to try to remember the names of the countries, the objectives, and some of the initiatives that it is taking, like price cap coalition. जो भी news में आता है related to G7, that you can cover. right? Why Russia is not in G7? Because G7 is a group of industrialized democratic countries. Russia used to be a part of this, but at that time that was called as G8. But after 2014, see, G8 used to exist where Russia was also the member of these bigger nations, but then in 2014 Russia annexed Crimea, right? Ukraine का जो थोड़ा small part है, so Crimea was annexed by Russia at that time. For this aggression, G7 countries, they expelled Russia out of their grouping and converted themselves into a group of 7 important countries, right? So because of the Crimean annexation, Russia was, you can say, is no longer a part of these nations, right? This is all what is written here. Now the next and the most important organization for today's discussion is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This we will discuss in detail. इसका complete analysis भी करेंगे. That is very important for you from the examination perspective. Direct questions can be asked on SCO, right? Now this Shanghai Cooperation Organization has its headquarters in Beijing. This factual information is important because it can be asked in preliminary examination. So हम comprehensively discuss करेंगे, right? It currently has 8 members. It currently has 8 members. आप SCO की journey देखें. SCO has evolved over the years, right, from having a few members to becoming a larger significant grouping now, right? So it started with 5 members when it was called as Shanghai 5, right? Initially in 1996 when it was established or inception happened, at that time only 5 members were there to this grouping, which included China, obviously headquarter Beijing में है, Russia, right, Tajikistan, right, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, right? Central Asian countries are mainly, right? It constituted these 5 countries, and gradually it became, in 2001, these Shanghai 5, they added Uzbekistan also, right? And they converted themselves into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and over the years now the number of members, the participation of other countries has been increasing. 2017 में we saw the entry of India and Pakistan also to SCO. Pehle they were just the observer members, they were observing the functioning of SCO. Now they are the actual members who can vote and participate in the discussions and decision making process of SCO, right? Their stature has increased in the grouping. Now they are the main members, main participants, main decision making happens with their support also, right? And next, now there is prospect that Iran will also soon join the grouping. Abhi join nahi kiya hai. It is highly likely that Iran will also join the grouping very soon. So total 8 members are present in the SCO, right? Now what are the objectives? Why has such a organization named SCO been created? कोई reason तो होना चाहिए. SCO बनाया है तो इनका कुछ aim भी होगा, कोई objectives भी होंगे that they are trying to achieve, right? So there are multiple objectives for creating SCO. First objective is to improve cooperation between the countries of the grouping on various grounds, like in the political arena, और प्रमोटिंग ट्रेड, प्रमोटिंग एनर्जी टाइज, ठीक है. एक ग्रुपिंग बना के व्हाट आर दे ट्राइंग टू डू, दैट वी हैव अ ग्रुपिंग, अ फॉर्मल मैकेनिज्म where we can all sit together and talk on various aspects of our interest. They can be political topics or issues. They can be issues like trade बढ़ाने के लिए the countries will sit here at SCO and talk about improving their bilateral or multilateral trade, right. They'll focus on better energy cooperation, right. So any grouping will have some kind of cooperation, and here they are focusing on these various multiple aspects: cooperation on trade, energy, research, culture, right. Then the effort is to improve ties, strengthen ties again in various field, in the field of education, in cultural ties they want to improve their relationships, जितने भी issues हैं उनको solve कर पाए और टाइज को आगे बढ़ा पाएँ. टूरिज्म हो, ट्रेड हो, environmental issues हों, everywhere they want to take their ties to another level. So the focus is on enhancing, improving or strengthening the ties in various fields, right. The next objective is security, right. Now the region can face multiple threats and issues, right. जैसे कि terrorism का a very big issue is there in this region. You see Afghanistan also lies at the periphery of this region, Central Asia, Russia वाला region, right. जो member countries है they are getting affected by these security issues like terrorism. Central Asia आप देखिए is at the head of Afghanistan. And Afghanistan has a lot of security threats coming up now, especially with the takeover of Talibani government, right. So various security threats that are there for the members of this grouping, they will try to focus on managing the security, reducing the threats that are there for the members of this grouping. Terrorism जैसे एक threat है for the members of the grouping. Then drug trade, drug trafficking is another big issue. You might have heard about the golden crescent. उसमें क्या क्या fall करता है? Tell me, what are the countries considered as golden crescent का part or points? So there are some doubts again. So JP is asking if India reaches 5 trillion economy, whether India could be in G7. So you never know, फिर वो G7 नहीं रहेगा, वैसे तो G8 हो जाएगा. So obviously when India is a strong economy, not just G7, every other country, every other grouping will recognize the role of India. Even UN में you are talking about permanent seat. So it is said that focus on your economy. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, the former Prime Minister, he used to say that do not fight for getting a seat, focus on the economic growth. If India is able to ensure double-digit growth for a decade or so, there is no one who can stop India from being party of these influential groupings. India will be such a big economy that all the countries and organizations will have to recognize the role of India, right. Then the playlist, so daily current affairs playlist ऐसे होगी जिस पे different teachers different days पे आते हैं. You can search it there. Vaibhav, yes, Kanu, Rohit, right. Afghanistan, Iran, Pak, they are the you can say endpoints of the crescent of drug trafficking. So यहाँ पे drugs बहुत produce and sale होते हैं, that impacts the security of India, Central Asian countries, right. So various security threats हैं, उनको control करने का भी objective है SCO का, right. Now the next objective is mutual trust बढ़ाना. इकट्ठे grouping में they are trying to strengthen their ties So they will also try to ensure that the other countries trust them strongly. Various issues में trust बन सके members के बीच में, so that they can cooperate in a productive manner, right? That is also an objective of the SCO. So these are the major prominent objectives that you can cover. Now these are the members, as I have already told you. इनको याद रखो, इन पे question आ सकता है. In a series the new members were added, so उस तरीके से भी आप याद कर सकते हैं, right? This is the geographical representation of the members, right? Now objectives, all the objectives that I discussed, these are the part, right? So now the important part for us to discuss now from the examination perspective especially is, what is the significance of SCO for India? Why is SCO relevant for India? Why has India decided to be part of SCO and continuously engage with SCO in an enthusiastic manner? What do you think is the significance of SCO for India? If I ask you, if you can think a little bit about the grouping, its objectives and its members, what do you think will be the significance of this grouping for India? Yes, Kanu, right? So see, by being a member of this grouping, India can enhance its ties with all the members of the grouping. That means India can strengthen its ties with the Central Asian nations. India can strengthen its ties with Russia. India can also work on improving its ties with China and Pakistan as well. So this is a small forum, right? Here limited leaders are there. Whenever a meeting happens, India can sit with the leaders of these nations and work on the bilateral areas of cooperation or conflict, right? So अब Central Asia से देखिए, India consumes lot of essential stuff from Central Asia, like we import uranium, we also import oil, Tapi pipeline आपने सुना होगा, we also get natural gas, right? So there are a lot of resources that we can get from Central Asia, right? So by being a member of SCO, we can interact positively with the Central Asian nations. We can realize India's policy with regard to Central Asia, which is Connect Central Asia policy of India. इसको realize करने के लिए we can use SCO as a forum to engage in direct conversation with the Central Asian nations, right? So SCO is very important to deepen our ties with Central Asia. Similar ही way में Russia is important for our defense and energy needs. Again we can bolster our ties with Russia, right? Now China के साथ we have issues recently because of the Galwan clash. India and China, they have not met each other since long. The leaders of India and China, they have not met with each other. So you can say there is negative environment existing between the two countries, right? Now this SCO summit, it provides an opportunity for India and China to collaborate, to sit together, to talk on the issues and come together to resolve those conflicts, right? So again, an advantageous or significant contribution of SCO for India, right? Similarly, Pakistan के साथ भी इस forum में इंडिया और पाकिस्तान तो कहीं भी इकट्ठे नहीं बैठ पाते हैं, हर जगह लड़ाई होती है, wherever they try to sit together, right? So here SCO, they are trying to use, they can use SCO in a positive manner to solve the issues that they have and take the bilateral relations toward a positive trajectory, right? So India can improve its bilateral relations with all the member nations by being part of SCO. that is the first relevance of SEO for India. Now second relevance is balancing. So India is also a party to many US or Western led initiatives, balancing blocks. Western led initiatives like Quad, और इसी वीडियो में we discussed India Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, right? So India does not want to be seen as a one who is working on the western side. So now you can say it is also becoming part of Russia China led or including Russia China in groupings like SEO. So it is trying to balance its relationship with both the sides, right? Third significance of SEO for India is fighting on security issues or cooperating on security issues. जैसे SEO has a RATS mechanism. RATS mechanism, that is regional anti-terrorism or terrorist structure, that is basically focused on combating the regional security threats related to terrorism, separatism और extremism, right? So इसके through India अपने security issues को भी solve करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, right? फिर वही trade and transit को improve करना through this grouping. India can bolster its trade ties with all the member nations, right? So that is why this grouping is very very significant. आपको SEO पे question भी आ सकता है in the mains. You should be able to answer on these lines very well, right? Now there are some challenges also. ये सब आप लिख लीजिए. Some people have answered also. So yeah, you are all right. Why is it important? That is right. There are some challenges also SEO faces. You try to tell me that what are the challenges in achieving these objectives and aims for SEO, especially with regard to India. इंडिया को क्या challenges face करने पड़ेंगे to use SEO effectively, to be able to use Pakistan conflict. Yes, very good. As I told you, India and Pakistan, wherever they sit, they tend to fight. SAARC is an example, a grouping that has failed to work in a very successful manner because India and Pakistan, they cannot resolve their conflict. They can only fight over their conflict whenever they sit even in the multilateral fora. So that can happen with the SEO also, right? The second issue is lack of connectivity. Now India wants to connect with the Central Asian nations. India wants to boost its trade transit with Central Asian nations, for which it wants to use SEO. But the issue is lack of connectivity with Central Asia. Direct land, road, railway connectivity is still weak for India to be able to use SEO in a good manner to reach out to the Central Asian and other nations, right? So that is why the full potential of SEO could not be realized by India, right? So that is all about briefly SEO. जैसे जैसे more articles keep coming on SEO, please keep adding more points whenever you see new point in news. Question in mains can be asked on this, so cover it very comprehensively, right? And now you have a question for the Seize the Mains initiative that we have been, we have started. You can write an answer to this question based on the discussion that we had, and you can post it on our website, right? So it will be very useful for you. Thank you so much for joining. That was all for this class. If you have any doubt, you can post it in the comment box below.